Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday live stream. So just like the title and thumbnail suggests, we're going to take a look at why self-custody is not for everyone. And I know that a lot of Bitcoin maximalists will say that self-custody is the only thing that you should do, and there's no other way around it. But I'm here to tell you they are 100% incorrect. And before we get into that, there's two things I'd like to talk about. First of all, I'm being joined by GemGem Crypto. Gem, thanks for coming on for the second time.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Yes, it was. I actually went through the whole process and almost got hacked by one of your doppelgangers, which we're going to talk to today about why self-custody and all the problems that are going on with that. But if you would like to check out Gem's channel, she's got a pretty good one. And I linked the YouTube channel also to her X account. And I want you guys to follow this one, GemGem Crypto IO, instead of this one, which is her old account, which was hacked, which we had a bunch of people already talk to X to tell them that this was hacked as they clicked on the three dots and they reported GemGem. And it's still up because for some reason, they have no ability to shut down scammers. Anyhow, Gem, I'm sorry this happened to you. It looks like you lost a pretty good account with 6,500 followers. Hey, just real quick, tell us how this actually happened. How did you get hacked?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I found it so dumb and I made some stupid mistakes. Basically, this project called Block Agent reached out to me on Twitter and I check out the profile. It looks legit because it got a massive followings. And then a lot of the people that I know happen to follow Block Agent, this project. So this like AI crypto project, and they did a TGE. So they actually have a token, and I could check out on CoinGecko as well. So like everything looks legit. So they reach out to me on X. They sent me a DM, asked for a meeting. So I was talking with the hacker. So I was talking to Rob before we hop onto the actual live stream a little bit. So the hacker was actually, he showed his face, because usually scams like this, they would try to hide their face and they would use all those different excuses just to not turn the camera on. But when I actually went on the meeting on Google Meet, so I was talking with the hacker for like a good 5 minutes, and he was basically shilling and talking a little bit about Block Agent. So everything sounds all right. And then he told me that he actually has another colleague, but the problem is the colleague was in China, so he couldn't join Google Meet. He had to use some other software. So I was like, okay, how about Zoom? Because like it should be okay, right? But like for some reason, Zoom didn't work in China. And then he asked me to hop onto a website called Lumina. So I clicked into the link. I actually joined Lumina. And then, but there was no audio and no video. And I just like, I find it really weird. And then the guy asked me to download the software, and I actually downloaded the software. So I feel extremely dumb. I don't know why I did that for some reason. I downloaded, and then 1.5 hours later, my wallet was drained, and then my Twitter account was stolen from me.
How much did you lose for that wallet?
15K, but I mean, it's a good chunk of money, but what disappointed me the most is actually my Twitter account, because like I reported to Twitter multiple times. I actually went to the Hong Kong police station because like Twitter has been asking me for evidence, basically to prove that I'm actually Jamie Wong, I'm actually GemGem Crypto. But whereas I'm doing live stream every single day, showing my face on GemGem Crypto, I still have my YouTube account. So I show all the evidence to Twitter. I actually went to the police station and I got the statement. So I uploaded everything to Twitter, and I even asked Grok. So if I go to Grok right now, and if I ask Grok, who's Jamie Wong, even Grok knew that my original account was hacked, yet Twitter didn't do anything about it. So that's why I'm a little bit frustrated with Twitter. But like, I mean, I made my own mistakes because like I
Mhm.
didn't turn on the Google Authenticator on my Twitter. The hacker actually tried to steal my YouTube as well, but luckily I have my authenticator on for YouTube. But somehow I magically forgot to do that on Twitter. So that's the mistake I made.
You know what? Don't worry so much about that. We're going to talk about all those things, and especially that Google Authenticator, which everybody uses. And I'm going to show you today why Google Authenticator can work. But right now, everybody who has Google Authenticator on, in the background, you're getting your codes that are backed up on Google. And if you don't shut that down, if someone is able to hack into it, they can get into the two-factor authenticator if it's Google, and they can steal some of the type Google Authenticator numbers that are backups right now that are for an emergency only. And if that happens, and we'll talk about it, essentially your 2FA is pretty much worthless. So the reason why we're talking about, first of all, the reason why we're talking about this all today, and I think it was put out brilliantly by Brand. He said, Rob's the only pro willing to take time to teach us how to preserve our capital. The real risk isn't waking up to negative 30%, it's waking up to zero. And that has happened. It happens every single week. I get emails weekly about people losing every single amount of money that they have. And it really comes down to how much risk do you really want to take? So what Gem was talking about there is she's a pro and I'm a pro. And I almost got hacked last week. And we talked about this on the show. This happened to her, and she does this every single day because you're going to have times when there's going to be a lot of things that are going on in your life, right? You wake up, you're a little bit groggy, you had a rough night, you got your kids yelling, you got your significant other being ambivalent, or whatever's going on in your life, and you just kind of like a little bit down, or you're a little downtrodden, and then somebody tries to scam you or hack you, and you fall for it because you're not on your best ability. These things will happen, and it will keep happening. And I got to tell you, I was talking to Gem before the show. A financial company that I work with told me that they had one of their computers hacked by an associate because the associate was talking to one of their investors. And the investor, they know who the investor was. He was a new associate. He knew who the investor was. He knew the face. He had heard that person talk before. They went into a meeting. It looked just like the investor, sounded just like the investor. They were on a call for about 10 minutes or so. The investor said, I'm going to send to you a summary of what we just talked about, and also for the amount that we're going to invest for the next quarter. I need you to review that and get back to me. No big deal. Gets that document, opens it up, downloads it, and guess what? It was malicious code. It hacked his computer and got a bunch of information. Now, thankfully, nothing went out because they had IT to figure it out. But I'm telling you right now, people talk about how there's a bubble in AI. I'm going to show you there's not a bubble. And you're going to see more of these things happen where like my face, Gem's face, our voice, and everything else in between. It could be your mom, it could be your dad, it could be whoever. They're going to contact you, and they're going to try to screw you out of your money. And it's going to happen more and more and more. So sorry that was so negative. Let's get into a little bit positive, and we'll go from there. Gem, anything to add before we get into some positive stuff?
Yeah, I just wonder if there is a ultimate secure way for crypto, or especially folks like us, because we are doxxed. We are showing our face on the internet every single day, talking about trading and stuff. So we like, in a way, especially Rob, because you have a much bigger channel than I do. We kind of have a target at the back. And especially, okay, that's actually more negative news because I talk about this on my show literally just a few hours before we hopped on. So I'm not sure you read this already, but Sam Altman's ex-boyfriend got robbed. And
$11 million lost in a wrench attack. It was what we talked about. Was it yesterday?
Oh,
yeah, it was a lot of money.
Okay. Yes, $11 million in some crypto high. So like for crypto folks, we not only we have digital risk, but we have physical risk as well. So yeah, I don't know, like maybe using ETFs would help, cold
Right.
wallets would help, but yeah, try to, I would say, stay a low profile, but it might be difficult for folks like us.
Yeah, for us, because that is actually good news because people aren't us. So I'm just going to tell you, like, this is before we get into the problems. 9-7 said it right. This is why I keep my money with TradFi. Don't use save password junk. And he or she is correct. That's the truth. This is what I do, even with a huge mark on my back, like Gem talked about. First of all, diversification. It's not just about diversification of funds across different investments. It's diversification of funds through different platforms and devices. I have multiple tangems, I have multiple ledgers, and I also use a custodial service through iTRUST. iTRUST uses the same custodial services that would be through MicroStrategy and also BlackRock, which is Coinbase Prime. And they do these custodial services for free for you to transfer over in-kind crypto, like my Bitcoin that I transferred over there. Now, when I want to take it out, it's going to be 1%. But if something happens to me, like Sam Altman's boyfriend, where somebody goes to their house and they figure it out, like myself or like Gem, and we get wrench attacked like this guy did, then they might be able to take some tangem. They might be able to get a ledger here and there, but they're not going to at least get 25%. And actually, I need to update that because it's a lot more now of what I transferred over. That's for me. And the things we're going to look at, you're going to see like, maybe this is a good option for me. Maybe it's not. It all depends on what you want to do. So let's break into some good stuff because that's my hack. Here's what's happening. So first of all, it looks like there's a bit of a ETF outflows. This was a couple of days ago, but the good news is that as far as like ETF flows themselves, and actually me and Gem talked about this before, about the macro was looking pretty reasonably good. Solana ETF flows are all positive across the board. That's Bitwise, VanEck, Fidelity, and everybody else. Also, there is a resolution trying to be passed right now about an inflation reduction proposal. Now, as far as like staking for Solana, you're looking at 6.25, correct me in the comment section. It's pretty good. They want to actually reduce that because the inflation's too high. And I have to applaud them for doing that because that's what we do here in every single country that we're involved with. We like to debase the currency. And because of that, I think Solana is taking a cue from the American government and across the board, and they're going to try to reduce that. So let's hope that passes. That'll be good for all Solana holders. Also, Ethereum ETF flows are positive over the last 3 days. Look at that, 55 million, 100 million, and 78 million, which is looking pretty good. Tom, Gem, we were talking about this. Tom Lee, as good as he is, as bullish as he is, BitMine Immersion added nearly 70,000 Ether last week, now holding 3% of ETH supply. Before I go on, Gem, what's your opinion on DATs? And where are you? Oh, and also, before I forget, what is your opinion on DATs and then also on-chain analysis?
Yeah, I mean, on that, I just feel like everything is on leverage because if Bitcoin goes up, we know that, okay, MSTR, we're talking about Matter Planet a little bit before the show. So we're going to have a more of a pump effect for all these stack company, a cute dot at the back, by the way. So we're going to have a bigger effect on the pump, and however, vice versa, the same going to apply when we have a correction, when we have a market crash. So the problem that we are seeing, and maybe like a Matter Planet would be a good example, because like, yeah, I mean, we know that they have been buying at a reasonably higher price compared to the current price of Bitcoin. So the issue that they're running right now, so there are more than 100 DAT companies, DAT companies for Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them, they bought close to the top. Like compared to MSTR, I think the average price is somewhere around 70K. I can't remember the exact figure, but somewhere around there. But if we look at Matter Planet, it's like over 100K per BTC for the average buy. But okay, we are looking at the giants, but what about we go down the slope? What about we go down to the other companies that have been purchasing Bitcoin? And bear in mind, they purchase near the top. So some of them purchase at like 110,000 per BTC. So they are running at a much higher risk compared to MicroStrategy. And
Right.
that's reason number one that I'm really bearish on the whole Bitcoin that narratives. And reason number two is when it comes to the method of how they raise funds, because we know MicroStrategy they started this narrative of using convertible bonds, so convertible debt. So one thing about convertible debt is that it's kind of a debt, but it's also kind of a stock, so it's kind of an equity. So until we have the maturity date we hit, and if the stock is worth higher than basically the price that the investor enter, usually the investor are going to change that into equity because it makes sense. They can profit from it. So what MicroStrategy has been doing is that they managed to use 0% interest, like almost 0% interest. So they could get away with that quite easily. And MicroStrategy, they have consistent cash flow. Like they are a software business, so there are multi-million of dollars coming in per quarter. Actually, a monthly basis, but there's healthy cash flow coming in. Whereas a lot of these like DAT companies, DAT companies, they have a negative cash flow. Because like when I do analysis, I like to look at the financials. So one thing I like to stress about is the EBIT, stands for earning before interest and taxes. So a lot of these like DAT companies, they have negative number for quite like a few quarters, or even some of them annually. Like that's the case for Metaplanet actually. So it was a dying business. It was in some hotel business, but like somehow they saw that there was an opportunity to raise this debt and to buy more Bitcoin. So the point being, a lot of these like there are over 160 DAT Bitcoin companies out there, but a lot of them is actually zombie. So is that what we want in the Bitcoin market? Is that healthy after all? So I have my doubt.
I have my doubt on some of them, especially like with Metaplanet. And I think you told me that the reason why Metaplanet is so popular, because they're in Japan, is because I don't know if Japanese citizens can buy Bitcoin directly or if they have to go through a proxy, which would be Metaplanet, a digital asset treasury. Whatever it is, it seemed to work out for them in the beginning, but their cost basis is pretty high. I think it's at 108,000. So right now, with it going down, their responsibilities are to the shareholders. They used to have a lot of hotels, now they don't. I want to say they have under 5. And because of that once the price starts to go down, the shareholders are going to have meetings. They're going to say, look, your responsibility is to us. And if our share price is going down that much, because we just showed it was above 5 before the buying, then it went up to $11, $12. Now it's down to $2.38. The shareholders are going to complain. And that's pretty much how it is. Now with MicroStrategy, there's a lot of things going on. I'm not going to say either way like it's the greatest thing of all time. I know Michael just, Saylor just put this out where it looks like they're going to be maybe moving into banking. And I don't know how this is going to work, but I will tell you, it is a net positive what Saylor and MicroStrategy are doing right now. Hopefully it pans out. But I will say there is a funny thing, and we've heard about this if you've been following along this debate about MicroStrategy and what's going on with JP Morgan. JP Morgan just announced that they're going to launch a Bitcoin-backed bond. And I find it interesting that they are piggybacking off what BlackRock is doing. And because of that, it's like they're trying to siphon away the capital or the liquidity for what a lot of normal investors would do, which would be like, let me just buy Bitcoin. Let me just get it into either a proxy or get it on an exchange or get it in some way. They're like, no, we want you to do essentially paper Bitcoin and do it by a backed bond. And I think it's one of those things where you're like, is this the 4D chess that's being played out? Because this is not what JP Morgan is looking like. There's a reason why they sold off all those shares of MicroStrategy. It's just an odd timing. That's all it is. Not all it is, but I think it's just interesting. Any it makes no sense to me as far as like why they're doing this. Gem, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, but I like to lean towards to the conspiracy theory because, like, one thing very interesting about this cycle is that we saw the traditional media, like, they are shielding crypto really, really hard. Like, all of a sudden, CNBC from against crypto to like completely pro crypto, or even like arguing with the guest being like don't like Bitcoin, and the I don't know, like the TV host would argue with them and being so pro Bitcoin. And this cycle in a way is really different because retails weren't really here. The reason why we know retails weren't really here because we didn't really had an actual altcoin season. So
Right.
we never really see that. So yeah, this cycle taught me is that liquidity actually like got sucked into Bitcoin, like from altcoins to Bitcoin. And even from, I could argue, like we saw the cycle top, okay, all-time high, okay, the
Mm.
all-time high of 126K. It could be driven by institutions, by smart money instead of retails, because we know retails aren't really here. We could look at indicators like ISM. We know retails were here back in 2017 and they were here back in 2021, but like this cycle has been so different. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, in a way, they could be right. Like this cycle is different, but like looks like the 4-year cycle is still intact because the magical number of cycle bottom to cycle top, because usually the length is 1,064 days, and so far it has been playing out beautifully.
Yeah, I think it's a weird thing, and we see these 4-year cycles, and I know people say, well, that's dead, and there's a reason why it's dead, and this is just pretty much par for the course. But like, I mean, like Gem was saying, this is what we've taken a look at, and we've seen it between like cycle tops. It's been around, well, from 2013 to 2017, 1477 days. December 15, 2017, November 8th, 1424 days. November 8th, 2021 to, if you think October 6th was the high, 1428 days. It's like 4 days difference. And I don't know if it's going to keep going up or if we're going to see it, but if you just take from lows to the highs, 1,067, 1,059, 1,062, and the same thing with highs to lows, except for the first one, 410 days, 363 days, 376 days. It's like the same thing repeating itself. But there was a thing that we talked about, Gem, where you, in the beginning, where you were saying about the retail isn't here because of liquidity being siphoned out. And what are your thoughts? And I think this is what works for some people, what doesn't work for other people. These indicators, not one of these on-chain indicators hit if October 6th is the height. And it might not be. But do you use these as far as indicators go, or does something else work for you better?
So far, not gonna lie, for this cycle, on-chain has really failed me. So I rely on my TA right now because like looks like following the 4-year cycle, following some math, it hasn't failed me. But on-chain, because like Rob was showing the website, which were basically the 30 most popular on-chain indicators out there, and none of that was flashing. I mean, there was one alt season, but like I didn't really classify that as alt season. Maybe because I was around for the previous cycles, and for me to call a proper alt season, I could just like close my eye and do like 10x, and I missed those days. But like, yeah, it is what it is. Like, yeah, the alt season did flash a little bit. It was very short lived, but like in terms of this cycle, looks like TA works a little bit better on my end. It is whatever you want to believe, because like if you're a bull, there are still a lot of positive tailwinds, or maybe when it comes to macro, or if you still want to believe on chain. But at the same time, if you are bear, if you look at TA, if you look at the 4-year cycle being so intact and basically very much relevant even in 2025. So yeah, it's for you to draw to the conclusion, I would say.
Two things. First of all, if everybody's interested for TA, I am not the guy. And I've said vocally, I'm not like a big, huge fan of it. But if it works out, then if it works, it works. So follow Gem on her channel. She'll show you the TA because you're not going to find it here, that's for sure. And then also, when you were talking about the narratives that are coming out, you said you're a big fan of Len Alden. Looks like the macro is intact. And then also, I know that there's a negative connotation going around right now, which has to do with a bubble, an AI bubble. And everybody is talking about it. And then you've got people like Michael Burry, who has pretty much put out this huge, enormous short on AI, because he believes that the chips behind what NVIDIA and the different producers are he's saying is that they won't be viable and they're not going to be able to be profitable past a 3-year time frame, even though Jensen, the CEO of NVIDIA, has come out and said, no, that's not true. It's actually 5, 6, 7 years. And he put out a 7-page report to all the shareholders. But then there was also this piece, which I think is a good narrative moving forward. And this is from the White House, as a matter of fact. Apparently yesterday, what's today, 26th? Yeah, 25th. Look at that. President Donald Trump unveils the Genesis mission to accelerate AI for scientific discovery. What the heck is the Genesis mission? I had to ask because I had no idea. This is led by the Department of Energy. It aims to accelerate scientific discoveries in areas like medicine, energy, and national security by building an integrated AI platform that harnesses vast federal data sets. Imagine if everything has to do with compute and the amount of information and data that is out there, and the United States government says, we have all this data. Maybe they give the data of the Epstein files too, who knows? And they say, we're going to be able to put that into an AI source to give us better models, and we could accelerate medicine, energy, and national security. That's a big thing. So when we talk about AI and bubbles, sure, it could be, but if you have the current administration behind that to make that a viable option, I think this is a pretty big deal. Gem, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, bubble or not, like we only know that in hindsight. But like one thing about Michael Burry, because like he made some very interesting point, because like he talked a little bit about the power issue, like the electricity in the US, and then the fact that Microsoft has a bunch of idle NVIDIA GPUs just laying around and turn dusty because there isn't enough electricity to run those. Yeah, I mean, there is quite some negative stuff about AI, but at the same time, I think the tech is very much real. Same as like, even because people like to draw tie with the tech bubble that we saw back in the 90s.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I personally, I do not think it's a AI bubble, and I really believe in the AI tech. Like, I mean, I am using LM every single day. Like, I couldn't survive without Grok or ChatGPT. I couldn't remember my time before 2022. Like, I didn't know how I managed to survive. And like, I'm using all these like AI assistants. Like, I have some wrist, this wristband around my hand, because like I could carrying it around. It's like an AI device to basically my assistant. This would listen to my conversations actually.
Yes,
so
helpful.
if I go on meeting basically a person in real life, my memory sucks. And if like having a assistant like this would basically draft the notes, my meeting notes, what I talk about with that person, because like sometimes it could be quite instant. Like maybe I'll go to some events or some conference and meeting an interesting person. I really wish to remember the conversation, because like meeting so many people on the same day, it might become quite confusing. Like having stuff like this around my wrist, and I could just like push a button, Like it's extremely, it's a lifesaver. So yeah, I would say the tech of AI is very much real, and I'm a big fan of self-driving devices, self-driving vehicles,
Sure.
and also humanoid robots. Like, because I've experienced that, and yeah, that I personally I do not believe AI is a bubble, because like when you actually experience the easiness it brings, there's no way it's not going to be a legit tech.
Yeah, and the reason I bring it up is because of it was pointed out to me by a subscriber. They said, Rob, have you ever taken Bitcoin and overlaid it with NVIDIA? I said, I never have, actually. And if you do that, it doesn't match up in 2011 and 12 when GPUs were created just for the average gamer and computers. But as we've gotten forward into 2024, it is a risk-on asset. Some people say it is, and Bitcoin is a risk-on asset. And when you overlay them, there's a little bit of divergence in the beginning, but as time has gone on, it just matches up perfectly. Not perfectly, but pretty darn close, especially as we go up and down. Blue is Bitcoin, red is NVIDIA. And I wondered that, and I wrote a piece about it, and what it comes down to is Bitcoin miners. So Bitcoin miners are becoming AI data center operators, but they're doing both. Some are doing both that are profitable, and some are switching to AI. The ones that are switching to AI is that is what it is. But as the Bitcoin miners switch off, there is a difference as far as like the profitability of Bitcoin miners. Now, when these Bitcoin miners switch off and they just go to straight AI, the complexity or the difficulty adjustment level goes down. So if you have like the big guys like Mara and things like that, then like, great, you guys just, our cost basis just went down. We don't have to dump on so many people, and that's a great thing. The other ones that go into AI and say, okay, well, maybe the chips aren't for AI, but the data centers, and then a lot of these data centers, and Gem talked about this, electrical power. A lot of these data centers, they have to have backup power to be Bitcoin miners in certain states and regulations. So if that's the case and they switch over, they already have some of the power that they need. And of course, there's a bunch of different things as far as like gas flare-offs and things like that. So I know right now with AI and everybody's nervous about it, there are going to be some companies that are just going to, tack on an AI to the end of their name, just like the .com bubble did, I think. But the big ones, like the NVIDIAs and some of these Bitcoin miners, it's going to be very profitable for them moving forward. So I think all these things, there are some bullishness out there. There is a little bit of bearishness, but the big thing of what I wanted to get to today, and I'm kind of doing a horrible job at that, is how much, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And as far as like the ability to self-custody, this was actually from DB Crypto, and he says, I just gave up funding an abstract wallet, not because I'm lazy, but because after years of the space, I just couldn't be bothered to do it. And he talks about how it's just a big hassle to go through this process, and he doesn't want to get hacked. And then a gentleman by the name of Bernard, who's been with me for a long time, he says, I totally agree. That's why I've gone 95% cash, and we'll be running the market via mostly ETFs during the next bear market. And of course, people talk about bear and how bad it is. And it comes down to this. I said, that's a good option for you, Bernard. And he said, thanks. It's different if I were younger. But at my age, I can't afford a major setback. And I also want to live life minimizing worries. God knows I've got enough without creating new ones. And this is the story I'm trying to bring to everybody, which is we demonize people who don't want to do self-custody, but there are so many negativity parts about it going on. And if you're like Bernard, I'm going to guess Bernard's not 20 with all that white hair. Imagine if he gets hacked and he's 70-something years old. That's it. It's game over. And now all the problems that are there. So don't demonize people when they say, I want BlackRock, or I want Coinbase custody to do it, or I want iTRUST to do it. Let them do their thing. We've got enough. As long as if somebody else is custodying it for you, as long as they back it by Bitcoin, who cares? If you're going to have JP Morgan buy paper stuff, that's different. I'm talking about what Bernard is saying. I'm going to do ETFs. ETFs have to buy Bitcoin, physical Bitcoin, and store it and custody it with a custodial provider, which will lead me to, well, we already talked about this. Scams. Finally. So this, I just want to go over this, the simple to complex, and we'll get out here and do a little Q&A. So these are the most simple scams you can go through, and then what Gem was me talking about as far as like the most complex. This was a good one. No one's going to fall for this, hopefully. A woman in France was scammed out of 830,000 euros after believing she was in a relationship with Brad Pitt. These are the photos she received. Now, I don't think anybody's going to fall for this, but this is like the most simple ones that you can go through. This, Gem, do you get these over in Hong Kong?
Yes, I do. I get all these like withdrawal iMessages all the time when I didn't try to withdraw any money from my exchanges. Usually they either have the phone yeah, it's extremely common. I believe, I wonder where they get the data from. Do they get it from actual exchanges? Like, how do they know who to target, basically all the crypto folks?
That is the million-dollar question. And the answer is either, well, Coinbase did go through a hack. They had Outlier for customer service, and they said that the customer service company that they integrated with, I know it was outside the United States, and they got hacked. They either got hacked or they were allowed to get the data for the Coinbase users because they were paid off, and they cut ties with that company. And they said it was only 4%, but I got to tell you, I know a lot of people that get these types of text messages. And of course, if you get anything, any text message, you get any kind of email, you get any kind of whatever you can, get for these scams will go through them. Either ignore them, which is like most of it does. Go back to the source if you can. Like in my case with Gem, I couldn't because the source was X. Her account was already hacked, and I thought it was really her. Or what I would do is just ignore most everything. Just ignore everything as best you can. And if you think about like, maybe this is I want to do this, run it through like Grok or ChatGPT first and say, is this a scam? When I ran this through ChatGPT, it says, this is a scam. So don't do that. Let's see what else we got. Oh, like first of all, Coinbase, it's got the phone number here, +63. +63 is in the Philippines. Pretty sure that Coinbase isn't generally located there. Also, you're going to get emails. They're going to say stuff like, if you're a part of Celsius, like I was, all you got to do is look at who sent it, because in the email it'll say Celsius Network, but when you click on it, it's info@bestmadeco.com. That's not going to happen. Same thing with this email about stupid stuff about Apple ID, and that's from marketing@sunlight.com.au. And then what else we got? Yeah, run it through Grok. And then this one, oh, this was a good one, actually. This is the same thing. Like, I'm going to link this in the description so you guys can check this out. But this was through crypto.com. And they actually had contacted me, and I ran this through Grok, and it said, this is a legitimate email, because the email itself was from crypto.com. And what they had done is they had spoofed the domain so it looked like it was from crypto.com, even though it wasn't. So even when I clicked on it, it was like michael@crypto.com. I'm like, oh, this is a legitimate thing. And then I go through proxy, yeah, it's legitimate. And then when I reached back out to crypto.com, when I reached out to on the app, they said, we don't have anybody by that name. There's nobody with that email. So when I have my rules underneath me, which is kind of hard to see because I got my face right here, but the very first rule is everything's a scam. Or no, it's right there, sorry. Everything's a scam until proven otherwise. Gem, what have you seen as far as your scams or the people that have told you? And how many people do you know that have lost everything, or at least lost some?
Well, personally, I've experienced that in August. So that's one story. And I have other friends in crypto, because we were talking about the crypto highs a little bit. So Sam Altman's ex-boyfriend, he got robbed for $11 million. And I do have other founders friends who are doing, I mean, pretty well. And when he was like traveling and attending all these like crypto conferences, it's quite common for someone just like drop you a message and ask, okay, if you're going to the same event, maybe we should meet for the first time in real life, in person, and perhaps I could, I don't know, invest into the project or something like that. So it actually happened to one of my founders' friend. Um, so he was about to meet a French guy, actually. So the French guy would tell him, okay, he knows nothing about crypto, but he wants to invest in the project, something like that. So he wanted my friend to teach him how to use MetaMask, and he actually wanted him to go over to a certain location where the location is basically is in the middle of nowhere. It's basically is really remote area.
Yeah.
So yeah, my friends didn't really sense it in the first call, but like because he was pushing it so much, like he was kind of like he really wanted to meet my friend at that certain location, and he couldn't just like talk on the phone and walk him through how to work on MetaMask, or maybe just like even on a video Zoom call, something like that. So that's some dodgy stuff. Like luckily my friend, like of course he didn't attend to that meeting. Like probably if he did, then he's going to be in some trouble, maybe going to ask for ransom or something like that, similar to the San Francisco $11 million crypto heist. And then I do have another friend who lost a good chunk of money. So he downloaded a fake app on his Android phone, but this was like, I think 2021 or 2020. So it's some time ago. Like he downloaded this fake, I think, Uniswap app on his Android phone back in the days. And then once he downloaded, he connected to his wallet. And once he done so, he saw like more than, I think, 20K worth of crypto being transferred in front of his very eyes. So that's the painful part. Like he saw the money going out of his account, going out of his wallet. So yeah, I mean, scams are everywhere in crypto. It's extremely scary.
It's extremely scary. You know what? And we could go on for this for like another hour. And that was kind of the original point, but I thought people need a little bit more positivity today. So we talked about this first. But really what it comes down to is this, everybody. And I think Gem pretty much summed it up, which is everything that sounds dodgy is dodgy. Everything that sounds like a scam is a scam. Even when it doesn't sound like a scam, it's probably a scam. You should not do as much as you possibly can. And again, if you can just, I know people will say, well, self-custody is the only way. I'm here to tell you that's a lie. And I think that we should be doing some other type of services that can actually avoid this type of happenings. And the way to do that, I think, is to have somebody do some other kind of custody. I know it goes against what people talk about, but if you think that this is right for you, then don't let anybody demonize you and say, I need to do some other custodial service. But that's it for today. I know we're going kind of long. I want to get into a little Q&A. So if you guys got any questions for Gem and what she's going through and what she does, or all the different things that we just talked about, put that in the comments section and we'll go from there. I've already got some. Benny says, if you don't self-custody, someone else has your coins. Who do you really trust? This is the thing, is that to go through all this process and then to be like what Gem just talked about, to go to some place and meet somebody and they rip you off. That's obviously, it's a pretty easy one, right? But I've heard stories, and Gem's heard stories about people who they just weren't thinking, or it was a bad time and then it kind of goes out. I'm not saying to take all of your Bitcoin or your altcoins and give it to somebody else. I'm saying it's a little bit of diversification of portfolio. Gem, what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The question is like, if you don't self-custody, someone else has your coins.
Which
do you
is
trust?
Yeah, who do you really trust? And it's a good point, because I know, like, when people say, I remember the FTX days, FTX, Voyager, Celsius, and that, and of course they had all our crypto. That was another situation. I can definitely see that.
Yeah, because like it's a little bit off topic, but it's kind of what I feel because I've been in crypto for quite a few years. I just feel like the longer I stay in crypto, the more I have seen humanity and a little bit depressed I get about every single day. But I think like ETF, it would be a good choice. Like is I'm sure it's harder to transfer that amount of money compared to some crypto wallets. So again, like when some people don't do self custody, they use ETFs.
Yeah.
Like don't judge. There's a reason behind.
Yeah, there's a reason behind it. How about this one? Meme asked a question, wondering what GemGem thinks about Coinbase's launch of Monad. I don't even know what this is. I have not invested in it, but just curious. Have you heard of Monad? I think it's up pretty massively, but that's an altcoin. That might be up your alley.
Yeah, I have heard of it. I think Coinbase is, I think, doing some TGE or something, although I couldn't confirm because like what this cycle has turned me into, actually I focus on Bitcoin only and I have been only in Bitcoin for quite a while. But yeah, I've heard of Monad I think is one of the most promising projects out there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what it does, but maybe we'll do a deep dive into it. I don't know. Jimmy asks, Gem, how closely do you track the politicians in the United States? Seems like a tweet can ruin TA in 5 seconds. That would be probably Trump.
Yeah, it depends on what you believe. Because one thing I tend to believe, and it has been working well for me, is narrative swallow price. Because I don't know, like the charts kind of want me in advance, and then sometimes, and then there's some narratives push out in the market. It's like if you believe in math, then yeah, because that's what I believe, and so far it's been working well for me. Because like one thing about the rate cut, because last week is very interesting. Like people are still saying it's not going to be a 25 basis point cut, and then all of a sudden it just switched so suddenly. Because like we were looking at poly market, and then more than 70% of people think we're not going to get a rate cut, and all of a sudden on a single day it flipped, the whole narrative flipped.
Yeah.
And then it looks like the Fed is going to chicken out. Like at the end of the day, we're still going to get a 25 basis point cut on 10th of December. But like when I look at the chart, like what I saw was that in advance, looks like the selling pressure kind of drying down a little bit. We're going to get a dead cat bounce. And that's what I mentioned in the live stream. And just like 1 or 2 days, because I was looking at the short time frame, I was on the daily candles, and then I was telling my community like looks like a dead cat bounce is going to come because we are on a shorter time frame, we are on the daily candles, so this could happen rather soon. Maybe I'm talking about a day or two because that's what it showed. And then I don't know, like all of a sudden the narrative was just like out for some reason. It's like, I don't know. It's quite magical. Like it's a belief, I would say.
Not a bad deal. All right. Again, like I'm not a big TA guy, but maybe this will work out. So everybody check out that channel, and then Gem can hopefully bring you to the promised land. That'd be great. Let's see. Thank you, Rob and GemGem. And then Trainer, my man. Hey, Rob, do you all have an example breakdown of what percentage self-custody to ETF is optimal? Appreciate it. That's a question for an investment advisor. And since me and Gem are not investment advisors, it just depends on the person. Some people are like, I don't think that's good for me as far as like to have an ETF, go through an ETF. It's like they just say, I just want to hold Bitcoin and go through that. Other people, like we saw in that X post, they're like, hey, I'm kind of old, and if I get hacked, and that's it for me. So maybe that might be a good idea to put in 10%, 15%, 25%, depends on what you do. Or you do through iTRUST custody, like what I've done. And that could be between 25 and 99%. I can't tell you what it is. That way, if I want to, not if, but when I get wrench attacked, I can just tell the guy, hey, I've got it all in this other account, so sorry. But yeah, I think, trainer, it really comes down to you. Gem, do you have, like, how do you split things up for yourself? Is it all cold storage and ledger? Do you have a hot wallet here and there, or how do you do it?
So I have different cold wallets. I have Ledger, Engrave, of course, TANGEM. TANGEM being one of my favorites. So even cold wallet, I will diversify. And usually cold wallet is for long-term investment. Because how I treat cold wallet is that I'm probably not going to touch that money for quite some time. It's like a fold for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a safe. I don't go in and out frequently, but I also separate into hot wallets. So for hot wallets, maybe MetaMask or even on Binance or on BitGet for trading. Because one thing I do is that I like to hedge a little bit. I know, okay, right now we are in a market correction, but like, even though, let's put that aside for now. The reason why I think hedging is so important is that, okay, if we have a spot position, what it means, okay, maybe for Bitcoin, if we're holding spot, that means we are betting the market will go up. That's why you have this long position already. And for people out there, they have a salary, they have pension fund, they have 401ks. They are generally betting the market to go up only. So in other words, they are in a long position at the same time. So if your whole portfolio is betting the market to go up only, you're actually exposed to a lot of risk. So it actually makes sense to pull some short position without leverage. So that's very important, without leverage, because right now it's very, very volatile. I like to stay away from leverage for a while, not taking extra risk, but like using that mindset, it actually helped me out with risk management a lot. Like I'm not being a D.A.N right now. I'm just managing my risk with hedging.
When you talk about hedge, so you hedge against it, I'm sure you have some in spot. What do you do to hedge against especially the volatility right now that we have seen, and now of course everything chopping sideways? What's your go-to play?
I mean, you could be as easily as to just like pull a short on Bitcoin. That's what I did, or maybe overvalue altcoins. Like that has helped me quite well for some of the altcoins, because like during we didn't, like a cycle like this, we didn't see an alt season. So finding a overvalue altcoins and then I bet them it's going to go down only, it's not like a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
So especially I would like to find coins like this that yet is still accepted by centralized exchanges for some reason. And yes.
No, it makes sense. I was going to say, just to piggyback off that, speaking of centralized exchanges, Jimmy asked a question regarding your hack. Did you track where that crypto went? Did it go to a centralized exchange, or have you done anything with that wallet, or are you just like, it's gone, who cares?
I think I went to a washer.
A wash type of wallet? Or like a mixer?
Yes, sorry.
Nah. So it went to a mixer wallet and then it's just gone, essentially.
Yeah, yes.
Was it all altcoins or was it Bitcoin?
No, it was Ethereum.
That's an easy one to mix. So yeah. Okay. Let's see. Jimmy, mine says Sol and Jupe are the only alts I have. Dumped all the other years ago. That's a good question. I guess it would come to there. Gem, for your portfolio, percentage-wise, what would you say is Bitcoin? What's altcoins? And how do you diversify from the riskiest stuff to the not riskiest?
Yeah, this person talk about Solana and Jupiter. I love Jupiter a lot, and I hold a little bit Jupiter, mainly because they have rewards sometimes here and there. But speaking of Jupiter, actually, I prefer JLP. So JLP is a basket token. So it consists of BTC, ETH, Solana, and a bunch of stablecoins like USDC and USDT. So one thing I love about JLP is that like usually the house will always win in the long term. And so far, JLP is like a consistent yield. Okay, right now we are correcting.
Right.
But like overall, if we think the market gonna go up, like JLP is actually, it makes a lot of sense for, it's almost like an index for me. And before the market crash, so like in the beginning of 2025, actually I bought JLP and then I actually leveraged that up because I'm a D.A.N. So I just want some extra risk for no reason. So I put a little bit of leverage on Camino Finance, and I did a healthy leverage, 1.5x leverage.
Okay.
And so far, like it has been generating well, but because like I talk about the 4-year cycle so much, and looks like it's still intact. One thing TA saved me as my personal experience, I could share a little bit. One thing TA saved me and the 4-year cycle saved me is that I wasn't so sure whether the cycle top gonna happen exactly on 6th of October, according to the 4-year cycle. But I was worried that it might happen. And one thing I did in Q4 is that I pulled out the leverage. So I didn't, luckily enough, because my TA gave me a little bit of sense. I pulled out all the leverage, and I didn't experience the 10-10 market crash. So yes, I mean that's a good thing.
That's a great thing. Yeah, that's a great thing. A lot of people experience that. Good thing that you got out. I will say I had heard of JLP before, and I was taking a look over the year time frame. I got to tell you, not too bad. 1 year, 14%. Now 30 days, 14 days, and 7 days were all down across the board. But if you were investing in this for the long haul, that's pretty good. And then if
although I wouldn't get into Camino Finance, like I wouldn't pull leverage on JLP right now. Because like according to the 4-year cycle, looks like the cycle bottom gonna be in October next year. So that's why I pull up my leverage, and but like it just showcased how everything just works in a cycle.
You know what's interesting about this? This is, well, good points, but this is only offered mostly on DEXs.
Yeah.
It's not a centralized exchange. It's all decentralized. It's JLP. It's over a year. And before people say, well, who cares about that? Well, if you compare that to the last year as far as Bitcoin, Bitcoin's down 6% over the last year. So there's something to be said. Of course, people will say, okay, we'll go back 10 years. Okay, I got you. We can play the game all day. But I have to tell you, it's not too bad. I had heard about it. So it's like an indices, like an index?
It's a basket of currencies.
Okay.
So if we are bullish on Jupiter as the exchange, as the DEX, then more people are going to use Jupiter. Like it makes sense for JLP to go up. And at the end of the day, like JLP is just made up of BTC, ETH, Solana. So the safe coins. Yeah, there you go. So a bunch of stable coins. There is a percentage. I think stable coins 40%, or the volatile are 40%. So Yeah, I checked that out. It makes sense to me. So that's why, like, I bought the JLP a year ago. But right now, I'm not taking extra risk. I'm not pulling leverage. I'm staying away from leverage for quite a while.
Sounds good. All right. Well, everybody, it's been about an hour or so. I know we couldn't get to all the questions, but Gem's got to do stuff. I've got family in town. So again, if you're looking for a little bit of the TA side, I'm not your guy. There's a link in the description. You can follow Gem on her channel. She does, it looks like, Gem, you doing daily live streams or every so many days?
Yes, I'm doing live stream Monday to Friday. I'm actually on with Roxim these days, so the studio is looking better than before.
I like that. Let's see. Nice little place out of Hong Kong. All right, everybody. So that's it. Links in the description for everything. Gem, thanks for stopping by and just talking about the hacks and the scams and everything else in between. We appreciate it. Everybody, thanks so much for stopping by. Have a good rest of the day. We'll see you in the next one. Adios.